Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Assalamu alaikum, my dearest brothers and sisters, and welcome to this episode of Pillars of Islam with me, your sister Mahwish Qureshi. Insha'Allah, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about paradise. And paradise is something that we all want. And subhanallah, the details when you hear them really will give your heart so much happiness. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he informed us about paradise, and in Arabic paradise is called Jannah, and it is much larger than hellfire. It is located above the seventh sky without being connected to it, and paradise exists now and it will not come to an end. Subhanallah, paradise is the place where people will live forever in enjoyment without an end, without ever experiencing any sadness, pain, or boredom. Just imagine that, the happiness that you may have experienced in this life. It's usually short-lived. It's usually accompanied by some kind of struggle or hardship before it or after it. But paradise will be a place that there will be no sadness, no pain, no boredom, and a person would experience enjoyment without an end. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he informed us in several ahadith that the Muslims will remain forever in paradise. So paradise is specific for the Muslims. We know the non-Muslims, the kuffar, will go to hellfire. But paradise is only for the Muslims. Amongst these narrations is what Al-Bukhari and others narrated of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying that an angel will say on the day of judgment, Ya Ahl al-Jannah, khuludun fala maut, wa ya Ahl al-Nar, khuludun fala maut, which means, O people of paradise, dwelling here is forever, and there is no death. O people of hellfire, dwelling here is forever, and there is no death. Now, the greatest honor and endowment that will be granted to the people of paradise is their ability to see Allah Ta'ala. Now, this seeing will not be as a result of looking in a certain direction. It's not something that we can imagine. The scholars mentioned that people will see Allah by a special power that Allah creates in their eyes, without Allah having a form, bila kayf, or being in a place, bila makan, or in any direction, bila jiha, different from the way that a creation is seen. In a Sahih hadith narrated by Muslim, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Innakum satarawna rabbakum yawm al-qiyamah," which means, indeed, you will see your Lord in the hereafter. And in Arabic, this is called Ru'yatullahi ta'ala bil-'ayni fil akhirah, which is seeing with our eyes Allah ta'ala in the hereafter. And as I mentioned, people will see Allah with their eyes without Allah having a form, bila kayf, or being in a place, bila makan, or a direction, bila jiha. So different from the way a creation is seen. In other words, my dearest brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create within the eyes of the Muslims the ability to see Him. So they will see Allah without Him being in one direction or in all directions, and without any distance existing between Him and the creature. So in other words, seeing Allah Ta'ala will not be as a result of looking in a particular direction. And this is why people will not crowd each other to see Allah Ta'ala, as Allah is not like the creation and exists without a place. Now this issue was clearly summarized by Imam Abu Hanifa approximately 1,350 years ago, when he said in his book Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, Wallahu ta'ala yura fil akhirah wa yarahu al-mu'minun wa hum fil jannah bi a'yuni ru'usihim bila tashbihin wa la kayfiyatin wa la yakunu baynahu wa bayna khalqihi masafa, which means Allah, the one who does not resemble the creation, will be seen in the hereafter. The Muslims will see Allah with the eyes of their heads, without Allah resembling the creation, without having a manner of being, and without a distance between Him and His creation. Imam Abu Hanifa said, وَلَا يَكُونُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ خَلْقِهِ مَسَافَةٌ, without there being a distance between Allah and His creation. This is because Allah exists without place and direction. It is mentioned in the Aqidah of Ibn As-Sakir that Allah Ta'ala created the entire universe, the upper and the lower, the Arsh and the Kursi, the skies and the earth, and what is in them and in between them. So all physical entities, all physical bodies, above us and below us, in the sky and above the sky, upon the earth and below the earth, as well as every action and thought that exists in the universe, is created by Allah. Allah Ta'ala revealed in Surah Az-Zumar, Surah 39, Ayah 62, Allahu khaliqu kulli shay, which means Allah is the creator of everything. And this word everything, it includes bodies and their actions. So this is why the scholars said that the slave only acquires the deed, Allah creates it. And when we say acquires, it means that the slave directs their will and power, which are both created, to perform the deed, and Allah Ta'ala creates that deed. Allah makes it happen after non-existence. And this does not happen except by Allah creating it. Moreover, the existence of Allah Ta'ala is eternal. Allah Ta'ala does not have a beginning and has always existed. And this is confirmed in the Sahih Hadith narrated by the great companion Imran ibn Husayn, that was mentioned by Al-Bukhari and others, that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, كان الله ولم يكن شيء غيره, which means Allah Ta'ala existed and there was nothing other than Him. So this Sahih Hadith makes it very clear that Allah existed and there was no time, no place, no space, no air, no direction, no up, no right, no down, no behind, no ahead, no sky, no earth, no darkness, no light, no body, no color. There was no created thing. And after creating everything, Allah Ta'ala did not change nor acquire any new attributes. And this is why the great Hanafi scholar, Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, who lived over 1,000 years ago, he said in his book on Aqidah, with regarding Allah, he said, Ta'ala anil hududi wal ghayati wal arkani wal a'da'i wal adawati la tahwihi al jihatu sit kasairil mubtada'at, which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clear of limits, components, limbs, small parts, and the 6 directions do not contain Him. In other words, above, below, left, right, in front and behind do not apply to Allah. This is because Allah is not in one direction and nor in every direction. And thus the Muslims will see Allah Ta'ala in paradise without Allah being in any direction. Now, the fundamental belief of all Muslims about Allah was summarized by Imam Dhunnun al-Misri, who died 246 after the Hijrah. So he was amongst the Salaf. He said, مهما تصورت ببالك فالله بخلاف ذلك, that whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is not like this. And in volume 29 of his 30-volume tafsir explanation of the Quran, Sheikh Fakhruddin al-Razi, who lived over 800 years ago, he conveyed the unanimous agreement, the ijma' of the Muslims, that Allah Ta'ala is not in one place and not in every place. He said, إن عقد الإجماع على أنه سبحانه ليس معنا بالمكان والجهة والحيز. This means the ijma' has been established upon the saying that Allah Ta'ala is not with us in place, direction or dwelling. Similarly, in another book, Imam Abu Hanifa, in his book Al-Fiqh al-Absat, he said, كان الله تعالى ولا مكان قبل أن يخلق الخلق وكان الله تعالى ولم يكن عين ولا خلق ولا شيء وهو خالق كل شيء, which means Allah existed and there was no place prior to creating the creation. Allah existed and there was no such thing as where, as in which direction or place. No creation, nor anything else. And Allah is the creator of everything. Now this statement of Imam Abu Hanifa It addresses the one who asks, where is Allah? Meaning, in which place is Allah? And I've had many parents come to me and say, my child asked me this question, where is Allah? And, how do I respond to that? The response is, the question where does not apply to Allah. The question where does not apply to Allah. Like the question, how many sons and daughters does Allah have, does not apply to Allah. How many children does Allah have, does not apply to Allah. Likewise, where does not apply to Allah. So it's not permissible to say that Allah is in a place that only He knows, or that Allah has a limit that only He knows. Because like this, it would be like saying that Allah has a son or a defect that only He knows. And clearly, this is not permissible. Thus, Allah is free from being in a place or having a limit, a side or a direction or children. And this is why the great Hanafi scholar, Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, he said, تعالى عن الحدود والغايات والأركان والأعضاء والأدوات لا تحويه الجهات الست كسائر المبتدعات. As I mentioned previously, Allah is clear of limits, components, limbs and small parts, and the 6 directions do not apply to Him. Do not apply to Him. Another misconception that some people have is that they wrongly believe that Allah Ta'ala is a physical light. Now, when referring to Allah, the name An-Nur means the one who guides, and it doesn't mean a physical light. It doesn't mean a physical light. Al-Qadi Iyad, who died 544 after the Hijrah, he said, وَمِنَ الْمُسْتَحِيلِ, that it is amongst what is religiously impossible, أَن تَكُونَ ذَاتُ اللَّهِ نُورًا. For Allah, he said, it is religiously impossible that Allah, the self, the that of Allah would be a light. He said, إِذَا النُّورُ مِن جُمْلَةِ الْأَجْسَامِ وَاللَّهُ تَعَالَى يتعالى عن الاتصاف بذلك. هذا مذهب جميع أئمة المسلمين خلافا لبعض المجسمة. Al-Qadi Iyad, who died 544 after the Hijrah, he said, and among what is religiously impossible is that the self, the that of Allah would be a light, because light is among the types of bodies. And I've mentioned this previously, that there's 2 types of bodies: a body that you can grab with your hand, palpate, palpable body, and a body that you can't palpate. So we previously mentioned that a body is that which has a length, a width and a depth. It has a volume. And you've got 2 types of bodies: bodies that you can grab hold of, like the table, and bodies that you can't grab hold of, like the soul, light, electricity. So he said, it is religiously impossible that the self, the that of Allah would be a light, because light is among the types of bodies, and Allah Ta'ala is free from being attributed with that. He said, this is the madhab, the way of all the Muslim imams, and it differs from the stance of the mujassima, who attribute bodily parts to Allah. Sheikh Badruddin Az-Zarkashi, who died 794 after the Hijrah, what did he say about the mujassima? He said, Al-mujassimatu kuffar, li'annahum abadu jisman وَهُوَ غَيْرُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَمَنْ عَبَدَ غَيْرَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى كَفَرْ. He said the Mujassima, those who believe that Allah is a jism, is a body, are kafirs, because they worship a body. For a body is other than Allah Ta'ala. It's not Allah, in other words. And the one who worships other than Allah commits kufr. Commits kufr. So this fundamental belief is supported by several ayahs from the Quran, amongst which is verse 11 of Surah Ash-Shura, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, which means that there is absolutely nothing like or similar to Allah. It teaches us that Allah is not a body, that Allah does not have bodily attributes. So as Muslims, we believe that Allah does not have eyes, hands, fingers, legs, feet, size, shape, limit, color. He's not a physical light. He doesn't have emotions. Allah does not get angry or sad or happy. Allah is not in one direction and nor in all directions. Allah does not have a soul, nor a son, nor a daughter, nor a mother. And whatever we imagine in our minds, Allah is not like that. So, nobody should be confused by certain mistranslations of other verses of the Quran or hadith that liken God to the creation, because the Quran and the hadith do not contradict each other. Do not contradict each other. Subhanallah. Imam al-Qushayri narrated in his Risala that Imam al-Junayd al-Baghdadi, who died 297 after the Hijrah, also amongst the Salaf. Now he summarized the correct belief in Allah in the following way, and it's beautiful. He said, At-Tawheedu ifradul qadim min al-muhdath. At-Tawheedu ifradul qadim min al-muhdath, which means At-Tawheed, the belief in Allah, the belief in Allah is to distinguish the eternal from the created. Eternal means having always existed, which is Allah. Allah is the only one whose existence is without a beginning. And created means existing after not existing. So in other words, one does not attribute Allah with the attributes of the creation, and one does not attribute the creation with the attributes of Allah. Thus, Muslims being granted the ability to see Allah is something that we believe, but we do not try and imagine. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.